As the sun touched the California desert with its golden hue, the Coachella grounds were slowly waking up. The festival was just hours away, and a wave of excitement was sweeping through every corner. Colorful tents were being set up, wild costumes were being worn, and dancing silhouettes were gradually flowing toward the stages. In the midst of all this, walking right in the center of freedom and rhythm, was Sierra Monroe. Sierra was a 29-year-old dance instructor living in Los Angeles. She had a deep passion for music and movement since childhood. Whenever she wanted to disconnect from the world, she would put on her headphones and express all her emotions through her steps. Dance wasn't just an art for her, it was a form of therapy. She would dance not only on crowded stages, but also in the empty streets during the early morning hours, because dance was her language. She sustained her life through freelance dance projects. Sometimes she would choreograph for a music video, and other times she taught flow-based dance classes in yoga studios. She didn't dance to make money, she danced to survive. For Sierra, Coachella wasn't just a festival. It was a ritual she participated in every year on the same dates. It was where she found herself, where she forgot her loneliness in the midst of the crowds. But this year was different. Last spring, she had lost Leo, her German shepherd, who had been with her since childhood. Leo had been her confidant, her companion, her closest friend. He had been by her side during morning runs and had been the presence she leaned on during long nighttime walks. After losing Leo, Sierra continued to dance, but nothing felt the same. She came to Coachella this year alone. Her spirit was a little tired, and her heart felt a little empty. Deep down, she hoped. Maybe music could heal something. Maybe in the middle of the crowd somewhere, it would make her feel her soul again. And that morning, when Sierra stepped out of her tent, she heard a quiet rustling sound that would change her life. The next morning, when Sierra stepped out of her tent, the area was still asleep. In the silence, she heard a rustling. Turning around, she saw a small fox wandering among the trash at the festival's edge. With its reddish fur, slender body, it looked elegant yet skittish. One of its legs was dragging slightly. It was clearly injured. Sierra cautiously approached and offered the granola bar from her pocket. The fox first backed away, but then, driven by hunger, gave in. That day, Sierra fed it and then asked for veterinary help from the camp's security. The fox was temporarily treated at the veterinary tent, but the fox didn't run away. On the contrary, it began to follow Sierra around the festival. Sierra named him Rudi. At night, Rudi would curl up by the campfire at Sierra's feet, and in the mornings, he would watch dance rehearsals backstage with her. They had gone viral on social media. People were sharing videos of them, using the hashtag #JokeFoxAtCoachella, and they couldn't get enough of Rudi spinning around Sierra as she danced. But on the last day of the festival, Rudi disappeared. Sierra searched for him from the early hours of the morning until nightfall. She asked the security staff, the event crew, and even the musicians backstage, but no one had seen Rudi. Her heart felt empty again. That little miracle had vanished into the chaos of Coachella. But Rudi wasn't really gone. The next morning, when Sierra stepped out of her tent with tired eyes, Rudi suddenly reappeared. Quietly, he sat in front of the tent. His eyes were fixed on Sierra. There was a sense of urgency, a call within them. This time, he was different. He wasn't her playful dance partner anymore. He seemed more like a guide, trying to tell her something. Sierra was initially surprised, then knelt down and called to him. But Rudi, unlike usual, didn't run to her. He turned around, then took a step. He stopped, turned back to look at her again. His eyes seemed to say, "Come with me." "What's wrong, Rudi?" Sierra said softly, getting up and starting to follow him. Rudi led her to a part of the festival grounds, slightly outside the main area. It was away from the crowds, a few containers, stage posters scattered by the wind, and a couple of crooked trash cans in the silence. And right there, behind the remnants of a tent, curled up in the shadow, was a young German shepherd puppy. Sierra's heart nearly stopped. The little puppy's fur was covered in dust. Its body was thin, and an old piece of wire was tangled around one of its front paws. Its eyes were huge but tired. It was clear the poor thing had been alone for a long time. Rudi immediately approached the puppy and rested his head on its neck. In that moment, Sierra understood. Rudi hadn't come just for her, but for another life too. She quickly ran to the veterinary tent on the campsite. When she returned with the staff, the little dog was still there. It was very tired, but it was safe now. As the veterinarians carried the puppy to the examination tent, Sierra looked back at Rudi. In his eyes, there was that same quiet wisdom. "You are an angel," she whispered. In the following days, Sierra visited the little puppy often. She named him Echo, because he was the echo of everything, the echo of a loneliness, a call, and a response. Rudi, however, was still by her side. This bond had now transformed into a story of three. While music played on the Coachella stages, in a quiet corner of the campsite, a young woman, a fox, and a dog quietly held on to each other. Their story resonated even more on social media. People were now adding hashtag Echo the Rescue to the hashtag Fox at Coachella, hashtag videos, dances, hugs, the first feeding moments. Rudi's protectiveness, it touched the hearts of everyone who watched. Sierra was no longer alone, but this was just the beginning. Echo, with the care of the veterinarians, recovered more and more each day. The wound on his paw began to heal, and the deep exhaustion in his eyes gradually gave way to a sense of trust. Sierra spent nearly all of her time with Rudi and Echo. She would lie in the grass with them, singing to them every evening at sunset before returning to her tent. Rudi would gently wag his tail in tune with the melodies, while Echo would rest his head on Sierra's lap and close his eyes. However, the last day of the festival had arrived. The backstage was bustling. Sierra was preparing for the grand final performance with the dance crew. There was a sweet excitement in her, but also a deep sadness. The festival was coming to an end, and perhaps this trio would slowly begin to drift apart. Before going on stage that day, Sierra took Rudi and Echo to the same grassy area one last time. "Wait for me, okay?" she whispered. "This dance is for you." When she stepped onto the stage, the audience was ecstatic, but Sierra's dance was different from the others. With every step, there was a thank you. With every turn, an expression of gratitude for Rudi's loyalty, Echo's fragile strength, and this unexpected friendship. The crowd applauded the dance standing, but Sierra's eyes were searching for something beyond the stage. When the show was over, she quickly changed out of her costume and rushed back to that quiet grassy spot. But neither Rudi nor Echo was there. Her heart clenched again. Had they really left? Just then, someone from the security booth raised their arm and gestured for her to come over. "Someone's looking for you," they said. Sierra walked over hesitantly. A small crowd had gathered behind the booth. When she stepped inside, she couldn't believe her eyes. Rudi, wearing a small flowered ribbon around his neck, and Echo, with Sierra's dance group wristband around his neck, were waiting for her. A woman was standing next to them, someone from the festival's animal health and rescue team. The woman smiled and approached Sierra. "These little friends want to go with you," she said, "and we thought maybe you're the best person to adopt them." Sierra couldn't hold back her tears. She knelt down beside her two companions and hugged them tightly. "We're not parting anymore," she said, as if making a promise to both herself and them. As the festival grounds slowly quieted, in the shadow of the camp tents, a fox, a dog, and a young woman walked together toward the sunset. Coachella had been the place where they met, but their bond now stretched far beyond that dusty stage. They hadn't just found each other, they had completed each other. Rudi's cleverness, Sierra's intuition, and Echo's innocence. This trio had become the stars of the festival grounds. Every morning began with Echo's joyful barking. Rudi roamed freely in the backstage areas, almost ceremoniously accompanying Sierra during her pre-show meditation with ritualistic loyalty. One day, while preparations were underway for the grand closing performance on the big stage, the organization team invited Sierra to the stage. Her story was a living example of the Coachella spirit. Sierra was initially surprised, then took a deep breath. She stepped onto the stage with Rudi and Echo. With the crowd's excitement, Sierra once again believed that life was open to miracles. Social media was buzzing about them. Number Rudi the fox, number Echo the rescue, number Sierra and the wild ones. People were fascinated by their story, and many had started volunteering to help animals in similar ways. The videos Sierra shared were watched millions of times, and especially children adored this trio. But this was just the beginning. In the days following the festival, Sierra, Rudi, and Echo set off on the road in a small van. Sierra had a huge painting of a fox and a German shepherd dog painted on the side of the van. It read, "The Wild Harmony Tour." Their goal wasn't just to travel. They wanted to visit festivals in different cities and, before stepping on stage, share with people the importance of animal love and reconnecting with nature. They set up small events where Sierra would give talks about animal rehabilitation and conservation, while also telling the story of Rudi and Echo to children. During their journey at an environmental-themed festival held in Portland, they collaborated with an organization that provided temporary homes for homeless animals. Thanks to Echo's compassion and Rudi's instinctive affection, people started seeing animals in a different light. Especially Echo, with her patient demeanor around injured and frightened puppies, had become a therapy dog. At another festival, the Spirit Bloom Festival held in the Arizona deserts, they rescued a thirsty baby goat stranded far from the campsite. Thanks to Sierra and Echo's patience and Rudi's sense of direction, the goat quickly recovered and became the festival's mascot. People were talking about how this trio was a source of healing, not only for animals, but for people as well. Throughout this journey, Sierra was also completing her own inner journey. She had once been a dancer trying to exist in the midst of crowds. Now she had become a storyteller who had found her own melody. Rudi's sly smile, Echo's protective loyalty, and Sierra's sincerity. Together, they had become a kind of guide. Among those following them were not just festival enthusiasts, but animal lovers, environmental activists, artists, and even teachers. Some schools had even started using Sierra's journey as teaching material. They had become a model for children, teaching empathy, responsibility, and how to live in harmony with nature. After every festival, they wrote another miracle. Whether it was Rudi helping to find a lost child or Echo rescuing a dog about to drown by a lake, the crowds didn't just applaud, they were truly moved and inspired to take action. Sierra, Rudi, and Echo had grown even closer with every moment they spent together. By spending time in different festivals, cities, and nature-filled places, they were collecting unforgettable memories. While dancing at festival grounds, Rudi's clever moves and Echo's calmness reminded Sierra once again how precious both of them were. Many people had noticed that the bond between them was more than just the typical owner-pet relationship. They were like a family, devoted to one another. One morning at a music festival in San Francisco, as Sierra walked alongside Rudi, he suddenly shifted gears and ran toward Echo. Sierra quickly followed him. Rudi had stopped in an abandoned park a little outside the festival grounds. Echo was quietly waiting nearby. Sierra noticed that the two animals were carefully looking at something in a hidden corner. As she approached, she saw a tiny German shepherd puppy trembling and trying to find shelter in the trash. The puppy was probably abandoned. Sierra, with a sense of shock and immediately taking action, picked up the puppy and brought it to her side. Echo, tilting her head protectively, walked beside Sierra, while Rudi circled around them, keeping watch. The puppy, feeling safe with Sierra, quickly calmed down and nestled its head into her arms. This new arrival resonated with both Sierra's and Echo's protective nature. As the festival came to an end, Sierra and Echo had found a new home for the puppy after providing it with veterinary care. The little dog had quickly recovered thanks to Echo's love and had started living happily with its new owners. Everyone was talking about the story of the love and devotion shown by Sierra and her animals, admiring their efforts to make the world just a little bit better. Sierra, Rudi, and Echo were always together in the midst of the festival crowds. While people danced and had fun around them, the deep bond between the animals and their owner often seemed like a dream to most. But for Sierra, it was all very real. They weren't just animals. They were a part of her life. One day at a big street festival in New Orleans, Rudi was dancing with a group of kids while Echo stayed a little behind. Watching Echo's calm and reassuring presence, Sierra thought, I wouldn't be anyone without these two. They weren't just dancing together. They were growing and learning together every moment in life. In the next city, with Echo's help, another abandoned dog was rescued. This time, it was a Doberman puppy. The puppy immediately calmed down as Echo approached it with patience and found a safe place in her arms. Sierra once again realized how nature and animals could change people. She no longer wanted to go back to her old life. The festival stages, dances, and applause would always be a part of her life, But the real reward was the mark left in the hearts of people and animals. Their travels and the fun events before the shows continued to inspire those around them. Each person found inspiration in Sierra and her animal's story. However, none of them fully understood the strength of the deep bond between Rudi and Echo. Every moment they shared, living together with love, was turning their lives into a legend. A year later, Sierra, Rudi, and Echo were dancing on the stage at the Grand Coachella Festival in front of thousands of people. They were no longer just participants. They had become one of Coachella's symbols. Their story was still going viral on social media. People were drawing inspiration from them, always remembering the power of being together, love, and devotion. Among the festival's stars, dancers, and musicians, they were one of the most talked about names. Before taking the stage, Rudi spun around Sierra quickly, looking up at her. Echo, as always, stood by her side with calm composure. The light in their eyes no longer only carried the essence of animals, but the full love and trust of a family. Not long ago, Sierra realized that her journey with Echo and Rudi had reached an unexpected turning point in her life. That moment, at Coachella, she knew that the adventure that had started with that little fox was more than just a chance encounter. Many people, by looking at them, had learned what true love, loyalty, and friendship meant. Everyone faced challenges, losses, and brokenness in their lives. But Sierra, Rudi, and Echo symbolized the power of overcoming those difficulties and the strength of being together. One day, toward the end of the festival, as Sierra performed on stage, Rudi was playfully dancing around the children nearby. Echo, standing off to the side, watched Sierra with a sense of quiet pride, feeling that everything around them had fallen into place. When Sierra came down from the stage and called Rudi and Echo to her, people were smiling and happy all around them. In that moment, Sierra realized just how special this journey had been. They had grown together, learned together, and reshaped their lives together. As people watched them on stage, they often found themselves looking for a deeper meaning, a story behind Rudi and Echo's dances. These two, Sierra's vibrant companions, were the ones who had shown her both the meaning of family and the true essence of love. And one day at the end of the festival, Sierra took the microphone and addressed the entire crowd. "You're all here to witness the power of love and connection. But true love is when the things you cherish touch your heart. For me, the ones who have touched my heart are these two wonderful companions and our animals. Remember, there's always a reason to celebrate life." At the close of the festival, Sierra and her animals stood together in the midst of the crowd, stepping forward into a future full of possibilities. In the rhythm of their heartbeats, there was only love and connection. They were together not just on stage, but in every moment. And everyone who witnessed it understood the strength of friendship and love through the story of Sierra, Rudi, and Echo. Coachella was no longer just the beginning for them. It had become a symbol of an endless journey. If you liked our new story, please like, share, and tap the bell to hear new stories told always.